Hi, crafty friend. It's Justine Dvorak from Stationery by Justine, where when I craft, my world stands still. Today, I'm going to make this gorgeous card with you today. And this is a recap or a take on my challenge from the Craft Roulette episode from last week. I am loving trying out these new challenges each week. This one was so fun. You can see that this card ends up being a pop-up card. This, I think, is my 14th card, if I remember correctly, for Craft Roulette. So it's a weekly challenge and it's a fun card making game show. So if you've never heard of Craft Roulette, I will have the episode that I was in linked down below if you want to check it out. I think you're going to love it just as much as I do. So one thing I wanted to mention is that I've been using the item that is from Craft Roulette and Trinity to kind of document my journey with all of the cards that I've made with Craft Roulette. So I'm using the Craft Roulette Creative Companion, and I do have some of my projects here documented. So I've been using this kind of like a little journal. So here's my card from last week, and I just go through and write the episode number, the date, the guest, and kind of how I did my cards, because now I can look back at my projects and remember them, or if I get stuck on a project at some point, I can look back and remember them. Now for cards numbers 2, 3, 4, they're all in 1 week because I skipped a few weeks of writing in the journal, but there's 100 pages, so now I'm ready to start this week. So this was episode 276 from last Friday, which was July 18th with Charlotte. The items that I needed to hit, or the parameters, were an easel card with an element of Western. The colors were rainbow. And oh my, what was the last element? I'm having a blank and that just went off screen. So let me check my Creative Companion and I will show you or tell you. Also, I want to mention, black and white image. All of the items I'm using today are from Trinity. They're going to be linked down below. So I used this first donut set to get that big area to make a plate or a pie tin. I'm using the alphabet soup die set for that fork. The Sweet Sentimental or Simply Sentimental stamp set and coordinating dies are what I'm going to be using for both sets of my sentiments. These are so fantastic. I'm obsessed with making them, especially with white and black. I think it looks so crisp. I'm also pulling in the sentiment set that's called Simply Sentimental Friends. And I chopped off the S for friend to get friend and not friends. And then I'm using the Oh My Pie to make a adorable little blueberry pie. Then I'm also going to be using things from that set to make the pie come to life, including blueberries and such. But my black and white image, I had this stencil of this cow print stencil in my stash from Trinity. I'm not going to go through making the whole stencil, but I wanted to give you a little flavor here. I used black Memento ink to stencil out this. It ends up looking like patterned paper when I was finished. I just love a good peel and reveal from a stencil, so I figured I'd share it with you. Ooh la la. Isn't that fun? I just love it. And it's just so fun and easy to make your own patterned papers with stencils. This has been a stencil summer. Okay, so I'm going to set that off to the side and let it dry, and we will continue the making for my card. How fun is cow print? I thought about doing a rainbow cow print for this one, but I ended up not doing it, but that's fine. All right, for my background, I have a big piece of orange cardstock. There's that cow print stencil if you're interested in looking at it a little bit further, but orange and blue are really fun colors to use on cards because they are complementary colors and they just really pop. And with that really bold stencil, I thought it would also be fun to pop. And I do love blue and yellow together, so I also used yellow. Also, the parameters were rainbow for colors. So I needed to make sure I had red, orange, yellow, green, and blue on my card. So I did that with a red strawberry, an orange background, yellow on the sweeter sentiment and on my cream, green on the tips of the strawberries, and blue on the blueberries and the pie. Now this pie die is so cool. It kind of interlocks in and lock in, brother. That's all I can think about when I hear the word locked in. But if you rotate it just at the right spot, it makes this gorgeous lattice kind of sit perfectly in the outside of the pie. So you just have to get it in the right spot. And then when I found the right spot, I ended up using some low tack craft tape to just make a little hinge like I typically use when I glimmer to keep everything in place. Now I have these really fun sparkly sequins from my stash. I think they were from a card kit from Spellbinders, or maybe an advent calendar from Spellbinders once upon a time. So I'm going to go ahead and add these to the pie section. Now you'll notice on the pie, I have used Copic markers to make the pie look like it was golden brown and lovely and baked. I'm also going to add these sequins there on top of my white and black and blue splattered. Now I used white. I used the Hero Arts Opaque White Acrylic Spray. And I used just like the little inside tube, and I just kind of tap it. And then I use Raven Splatter from Spellbinders. And then I used Blueprint Sketch Distress Spray. And again, I just take the top off and just tap with the inner tube. And I get a fun little pattern there. So once that is all dried, now I am gluing on my sequins and my blueberries. I'm just checking the placement. Some of them are completely covered, but I know they're there, and so do you, and that's okay with me. I'm going to go ahead and add a few more sparkles where I know that they will show, just to make it look extra sparkly, because I love a sparkle. Plus, usually blueberry pie has a little bit of a shine to it. So I am going to go ahead and add a little bit of some Jelly Roll number 10 white pen to the actual blueberries to help them stand out just a tiny bit more from the blue paper background. And of course, more white dots, because the more white dots, the better. Now for the top of my lattice, I'm going to use liquid glue around the edge to seal it. But I am going to use some foam on the center to pop it up, so it looks kind of like a pie with a domed middle. On camera, it does not look any different with this foam, but I promise you in person it is popped up. Speaking of in person, I'm going to Paperganza this weekend in Kansas City. So if you're going to be there, please say hi. I would love to meet you. And I'm actually going to bring this card along with me and bring it to the Trinity Stamps area as an example. So you might be able to see this card if you're going to Paperganza. So like I said, that foam really, you can't tell at all in person, but in person it looks awesome. On camera, it just looks a little bit popped up. Not that different, but I'm telling you, in person, it's extra cool. Sometimes it happens with cards. I notice that a lot with easel cards. On camera, they look okay. It's a little bit awkward, but in person, they really do have that wow factor. So this cardstock that I'm using to put my pie on is Silver Mirror cardstock. You can see all those splatters on my hand from splattering, and you might check out the ring finger nails. Yep, I have a wheel on my fingers. I have an amazing nail technician. She is more like a nail artist. I am incredibly impressed with her every time she works on my nails, and she's become she just impresses me all the time. And she knew that I was going to Craft Roulette this weekend, and she said, let's put a wheel on your nail. So we did it, and I think she nailed it. And I think it's just such a fun little extra special way to celebrate Paperganza. I'm so pumped. Now I'm doing this video voiceover on Monday before I go. I am not packed at all. I have kind of an idea of what I'm bringing, but I know it will all come together when it's time. Then I'm going to add a little bit of foam to the end of the word friend, just so it is supported and the other part of friend will be on the pie. Again, I cut off the S on this die is friends, but the way that Trinity designs a lot of their products, you can mix and match and make it work for all sorts of different cards, and chopping off the S helped make my card be exactly what I wanted. So just chopping off the S, I got a whole nother look. Then this adorable fork from the Alphabet Soup die set makes me giggle every time I use it because it just is so dainty and adorable. Now, this is for a shout out to all my left-handed crafty friends out there. Whoop, I'm going to move it to the left. Haha, because I think left-handed people are awesome and not acknowledged as much as they should be. So I figured let's go different and put it on the left. Fun fact, one year when I was teaching, I had a class of 12 and I had 10 left-handed children. I thought that was so fun. It was a little bit complicated to teach cursive, but it's okay. We made it work. And I think that what makes people different makes them special. So, yep, I went on the left side. Okay. I added some whipped cream to my pie, and I'm going to pop this up with foam because I'm going to add a little extra fruit around it. I did shade that cream with a little bit of yellow, so maybe it's more of like a lemon meringue that just got popped on top of the pie. And then these strawberries I die cut out with some rip and stick behind them and Copic colored the strawberries. So they're practically a sticker at this point. I'm going to snip off the edge just so I can make it look like it's tucked under the cream, like so. But I love using that rip and stick, and shout out to Carrie Rhodes for, I think she was the first person who I ever saw do that. And I think it is so easy peasy to do that with sentiments, and it's kind of my go-to for small die cuts if I can remember to do it before I start working with items. But I think these strawberries are so darling, and the tops just really make them come to life. So this is just such a fun set. Now, this pie set is new to me. I actually just picked this up 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and I hadn't used it yet. So this week's parameters, it just, to me, Western, I feel like pie was covered with Western for a few reasons. I'll get into that in just a minute, but also I have that cow print there. But I went to the Google and was Googling about pie in the West. And is pie Western is basically what I put into Google. And the powers that be online said that pie came from Western Austria, or I'm so sorry, Australia. So kind of like kangaroo outbacks. I don't know. I looked it up and it got me kind of interested in it, but it has something to do with Australian Western movies with meat pie. I know I have blueberry pie, but there's that in America. I know blueberry pie typically comes from like the Maine area, which is northeastern, which has nothing to do with Western. But depending on where you are in the world, America could be Western from where you are. So there's that. That's all right with me. Anyway, I'm going to add all of these cute little blueberries to my card. Not one blueberry is going to be left behind on my project. So they're in the pie, they're on top, and they're going to be spread out all around the little table area of my pie. And I am going to add these little sequins all over because it just adds to the fun of it all. So if you've ever made an easel card, You know that they are kind of fun to make, but they are a little bit tricky when you first try it out. They're not that hard to figure out, but let me show you how I make my easel card. So I have a card base like this. This is half of a piece of paper, so it's cut down by 4 1/4 by 11. And then I'm going to score it right around the halfway point of my first panel. So this is going to be right around 2 3/4 inch. So it's kind of half, kind of not, but it works. And then I've scored it in the halfway point, which is 5 1/2. So I'm scoring it just like that. So basically in half, and then half of the half. So the 4th way point as well. And then it just makes this little popped up piece. Now it's going to pop up and look kind of jumpy because nothing is holding it down. So once I put my pie panel on to the front part, it will sit just perfectly. So for my inside of my card, this cow print is going to be quite bold, and I love it for that. So I also wanted this card to be kind of giftable as well. So I did go ahead and I just cut with paper. Actually reached it from my white scrap paper and cut this down to be, I don't think I have the dimensions there, 3 3/4 by probably 2 2/4. And just made a little white panel, and that's for whoever is giving this card as a gift can write a little message there. And I just stuck it down with some double-sided adhesive. There we have it. I'm just going to give it a firm press with my Trinity press tool as well. So it will sit roughly like that. Then I have the sentiment Sweeter, and I die cut that out from some yellow cardstock. You see I have a stamped little image on the back there. If I am stamping something and it does not go well, I will put it in my scrap bin if I can reuse the paper, and that is exactly what I did for Sweeter. And I did pop that up with foam, and I did find on that Sweet Sentiment set, they had the word pie, and they also had the word than you. So I just used the word than, and then used the word pie, and stamped out onto a teeny piece, than pie. So my sentiment will read, sweet friend, sweeter than pie. Adorable, isn't it? Now I thought it was a little bit lost on the cow print background. So what I went ahead and did was reach for that same blue paper that I made the pie with. So it all coordinates. And I just made a little bit of a frame around the words than pie. Perfect. So again, this top part is going to be pretty flippy before I add my top down. So how I add this so there's not issues is I only add glue to the bottom half of my front of the card, and then I will line up my card front on top of that. So there is 0 glue on the top part of my card panel. Now, when I did this, things get a little bit crooked. It's fine. I'm going to use my scissors and just do a little snippy snip, and it will be good as it can be. Let me know if you have ever made an easel card down in the description. I would love to know. If you've liked or learned anything on this video so far, please let me know in the comments and hit the like button so I know that you have liked or learned something along the way. I do tend to do some lives every once in a while, so if you hit the notification bell, you will be notified when I go live. Like I said, no blueberry was left behind, so I'm going to add a little cluster of berries to the inside section of my card. So that will finish off this card. I nailed all the perimeters from this week, and I'm just loving crafting with all these fun parameters from Craft Roulette. The only thing I did to this card off camera was add white gel pen to all the areas. I like to add that at the very end of my card making because it can smear. And so if I'm kind of maneuvering the front and folding things, bending things, I don't want it to get all over. So that is usually my finishing touch, is adding that white gel pen. So here is some close-up looks at the finished projects. Again, let me know what you think about this in the description. And if you're going to Paper Ganza this weekend, please come say hi to me. I would absolutely love to meet you. I'm going to be in the pod Inky Elves, which is so fun. So we will see you either this weekend or down in the comments as well. Bye, crafty friend.